morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I want to talk about a deck that is receiving quite a lot of hype. Now, I believe it was the lovely Joe Bernard of Omnipoke that originally came around with this deck idea, but I played against it in an online tournament at the weekend, and I've seen other people posting about playing either with or against that deck. So I think it's time we had a look at Spiritomb Ultra Beast. Yeah, apparently nowadays you can play Spiritomb with Ultra Beast, and it's actually like a legitimate deck. Now, the specific deck list I'm using in this video was tweeted out by @Neil_Pi over on Twitter. It was featured in the Neil Pi Open, a really lovely online tournament, and it was played by Mellow Magikarp. The question is it any good? And we might as well start off with Spiritomb, because of course nowadays everyone's scared of Dragapult. So the theory is that Spiritomb can hit Dragapult for weakness and is therefore a very, very good option. Now what it does, you can once during your turn place one damage counter just on the Pokemon. Once a turn you can just pop a damage counter onto Spiritomb. And then for a single energy you do 10 damage base, plus 30 more for each damage counter already on Spiritomb. So the theory here, of course, is that you get as much damage on it as you can very, very quickly, and then you use that to go and get a one-hit KO on a Dragapult V for 2 prizes, or a Dragapult V Max for 3 prizes. And that is very much at the center of the deck. You do play Rainbow Energy here. I know we're going slightly out of order, we kind of have to for Spiritomb. We play Rainbow Energy here that lets you drop a damage counter onto Spiritomb when you attach it. We play Jinx here that lets you move a damage counter from one of your Pokemon to another. And we play Hustle Belt, and the maths works like this. Bench 2 Spiritomb and a Jinx. Put 1 damage counter on each Spiritomb using the ability, and use Jinx to move damage from one Spiritomb to another. You now have 3 damage on one Spiritomb in a single turn. You are doing 100 damage. But now that you've got 30 HP remaining, and you are damaged, you have activated Hustle Belt, which means you do an extra 60 damage. You're now doing 160 damage, doubled for weakness is 320, which is an exact KO on a Dragapult V Max. It can be quite difficult to pull off in one turn, but that's the theory. You can go from nothing to a KO on a fresh free prize Dragapult V Max in a single turn. That's the theory here. Now, in terms of the Ultra Beast, one of the ones we obviously play here is Buzzwole. And the theory is that if you've got an opponent who's got exactly 4 prizes remaining, Buzzwole will come in here and do 120 damage for a single energy. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Because then you're taking 3 prizes off of Pikachu and Zekrom. And it's only 1 attack, you're only doing this once during the game, but the theory essentially becomes that at some point during the game you take a cheeky 3 prizes from a single energy Pokemon, and that's essentially it. That should be enough to turn the game into your favour. Sounds good to me. Now, it is worth noting that Pikachu and Zekrom can avoid this by taking a prize, then using their GX attack to take a prize off the active and one of your bench, which is why it is super important that you play the Mew from Unbroken Bonds. It protects your bench from damage, but it's really important here, otherwise Pikachu and Zekrom can take 1 prize, then 2 prizes, and actually avoid your Buzzwole altogether, which is not a good thing. We also see a single copy of Blacephalon GX here, and this isn't really for the main attack, as it were. The main attack, Mind Blown, for 2 energy, lets you Lost Zone as much fire energy as you like, doing 50 damage for each one Lost Zoned. We don't have the energy. But we also don't have any GX attack we want to use, and Burst GX just discards one of your prize cards. If it's an energy you attach it to one of your Pokemon, yay! But really here, you just discard a prize card. It means that you now have 1 less to take. So if you're down to 1 prize remaining, up goes Blacephalon, you use the attack, yay! Now I have no prizes remaining, and it's just for a single solitary energy. Which sounds kind of ridiculously good. And then we play Nihilego. Nihilego is another very specific card here. For a single psychic energy, you can either confuse and poison, but that's not what we're doing, Or you can, if your opponent's got exactly 2 prizes remaining, copy any attack from any of your opponent's Pokemon. That's kind of ridiculous and awesome, and we love it. It's a good Pokemon. Now, outside of that, we've got one of the Oranguru from Sword and Shield. Lets you swap a card in your hand with the top card of your deck. Really good for consistency. We've got 4 copies of Jirachi. Speaking of consistency, lets you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, find a trainer card, put it in your hand, Jirachi goes to sleep. We've seen it everywhere. It is amazing. And yes, obviously, we then play Escape Board, so you can retreat for free, even if you are asleep. We play 1 copy of Fiona here. Fiona is a really nice Pokemon. It allows you to put it on just the bottom of your deck from the bench, which pretty much stops you ever decking out. It means your opponent will have to play Balabra and Bryceman or something similar to deck you out. Otherwise, you're just not going to naturally deck out. But it also makes your opponent switch their active Pokemon. It's not perfect gusting, because your opponent gets to choose which Pokemon to bring active, but it's still pretty nice for getting rid of a Pokemon in the active you don't want. And then 1 copy of Tapu Fini, and this is just a shameless tech against Blacephalon. Blacephalon has become one of the very best decks around at the moment, and Tapu Fini for a single colourless energy on a basic Pokemon will get a 1-hit KO. Will also 1-hit KO Blacephalon GX if you come across one of those, but generally speaking, this is just a shameless tech coming to take down Blacephalon. And it's hard to be particularly mad about this. Now, in terms of energy, we're going full special energy here, so do cross your fingers you don't come across an Alolan Persian, or else they will just block you out of the game. And the reason is we've got lots of different Pokemon taking lots of different types of energy. So we've got 4 Rainbow Energy. It's any energy, but actually remember you get to drop a damage counter. Really good for Spiritomb. 4 Aurora Energy, you have to discard a card from your hand, but again, it's any kind of energy. And 1 Beast Energy, it's any kind of energy when attached to an Ultra Beast. You can use it on another Pokemon, but it is just a colourless energy. Also lets you do an extra 30 damage, which is kind of awesome. But you've got enough Ultra Beasts in this deck to make it worth it as a 9th energy card. In terms of your trainer line, we see the same trainers we tend to see everywhere. 4 copies of Professor's Research, discard your hand, draw 7, a very fast, aggressive card. 3 copies of Marnie, both players shuffle a hand and put them on the bottom of their deck. You draw 5 cards, your opponent draws 4. Decent draw while also being a little bit disruptive. And a couple copies of Cynthia, you shuffle your hand and get a new hand of 6 cards, shuffle it into your deck. And again, it's just a very consistent card. In terms of Pokemon Search, we're playing 4 Quick Ball because every single Pokemon in your deck is a basic Pokemon, so that kind of makes sense. We're playing 2 copies of Escape Board for Jirachi, 3 copies of Hustle Belt for Spiritomb, both exceptionally important cards in this particular deck. We are actually playing 4 copies of Pokénav here, which is a rather unusual card. But the thing about Pokénav is you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, find a Pokemon or energy and put them into your hand. And as much as you're playing a weird Pokemon line of a bunch of one-offs, you're also playing entirely special energy. There's no better way to search it out than Pokénav. I mean, there is Guzma and Hala, but it's just a border for the turn, etc. So that's why we're playing Pokénav here. We've got a copy of Great Catcher to gust up any GX our opponent might bench, especially good for taking out Dedenne with some of your slightly weaker Pokemon for 2 prizes. We then got 2 copies of Boss's Orders to gust up anything. It is your supporter for the turn, but it's pretty necessary. A couple copies of Switch to make sure you got the right Pokemon in the active. Can be awkward with this deck given all the different one-offs and all that you're playing. 3 copies of Scoop Up Net, and Scoop Up Net really here is working as a pseudo Switch. It just allows you to pick up a non-GX, non-V Pokemon. And you can pick it up to reuse Jirachi, and you can pick it up to reuse Oranguru. There are other things you can do with this, but a lot of the time it ends up like a pseudo Switch, or you're reusing one of those once per turn abilities. So between the 2 Switch and the 3 Scoop Up Net, you should be pretty good. And our stadium of choice is Shrine of Punishment. You get to drop 1 damage counter on each EX and GX between turns. You're really not relying on these. Yes, you play 1 Blacephalon, but you don't need to. Like, you can leave it just in your hand or in your deck. You don't need to play it. And when you do need to play it, you're generally playing it, using the GX attack and moving on with your life. So it's really, really not going to matter. And there's still a bunch of decks around that are relying on GXs. EXs in Expanded, but not in Standard. So you're dropping extra damage on them. I like this deck. I think it's a very nice deck. It doesn't guarantee a win against Dragapult, because they can take out Spiritomb on your bench. It doesn't guarantee a win against Pikachu and Zekrom, because you've only got the one card that's really going to smash them. It doesn't guarantee a win against Blacephalon just because you're playing one Tapu Fini, but what it does do so beautifully is it gives you options against all of them. You've got to play well, you've got to pick your spots, you've got to play nicely, you've got to play well. But the fact of the matter is that you've got a really nice deck with a lot of options, and that's the point here. It's not supposed to be an autopilot deck which auto wins every game. It is supposed to give you the tools you need to have a good chance against every deck out there, and that for me is a pretty nice deck. But I would be very excited to know what you think about this deck. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are pretty gosh darned awesome nonetheless. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.